Hello, Craig.
It's on you, it's all on me. Can't you see? It's on you, it's all on me. You and me, can't you? It's on you, it's on me.
Hey, Craig. Right or wrong, we don't care. Win or lose, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care.
Hey, Jeff.
Hello, Craig.
Hey,
What's up, my
I
friend?
feel pretty good right now. Just watched a certain college football team flame out of the college football playoff by
Flame out.
losing to a winless Kennesaw State.
That's so sad. That's so
One of
sad.
our favorite teams to root against. Liberty.
Yeah. Yeah.
No longer undefeated, and I think
How about
any
that?
loss on their schedule is an elimination because their schedule's pretty weak.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Kennesaw, I think isn't their first year of FBS
Yeah. I
or
mean,
second year, maybe?
Okay, hold on. I'm going to look this up. But to my recollection, at the prediction tracker, which is one of my favorite things, like it kind of aggregates prediction models. I think that Liberty was a 95% or something like that. Let me hold on.
Well, now I'm worried about this weekend for Cougs. Well, while Jeff
Nope,
is
91%. 91%. They were they were 26-point underdogs at kickoff. Prediction tracker had them at, I don't know, 20 about 23 points worse than Liberty. So yeah, 91%. Although I don't know, man. Liberty choking, that's a good deal. That's a good deal all
That's
around.
a good deal. And this is not a Liberty hating podcast, although Liberty
I mean,
haters.
sometimes
this
it
is this is podcast versus everyone, which includes Liberty. This is episode 227. I'm Craig Powers. With me, as usual, is Jeff Newser.
Hello,
Jeff, we're going to do something before we get into that sick Hawaii game that you almost predicted the exact right score for. Talk a little bit about, please, the premium subscription. We always throw this at the end, but we're just going to throw it up real top real quick. And what does it cost? What does it mean? All that.
Yeah, folks. So if you are a podcast listener but don't really subscribe to the newsletter or engage with any other content, that's all at podcastvseveryone.com. There you can subscribe to the newsletter, and then we also have a premium level. Starts at $5 a month or $50 a year, and what that gets you is the occasional members-only content. You know, we do a little bit of that. My game day guides that I type up for Saturday mornings. Those fall in there. But also the big thing you get is access to our premium Slack. For people who don't know what Slack is, it's kind of like think like a giant fast-moving message board. So that's for our members only, our paying members only. We hang out, we talk. Craig and I are in there all the time talking with people. It really is like a really incredibly fun group of people who just they know Cougar sports, they care about Cougar sports. And I think one of the things you and I have loved the most about it is that it's become this incredible refuge away from like Twitter and other social media where that can be somewhat the word gets over has been toxic, right? Like, and you can't have a conversation with other Cougs without fans of other schools jumping in there, right? And so this is all Cougs all the time. We have all sorts of channels, and one of them being the Apple Cup channel. We have not archived the Apple Cup channel yet.
We archive every other Game Thread channel within a few days, but the Apple Cup
we always
still
archive
lives.
the Game Thread channels. Not that one.
It's actually the Husky hating channel at this point.
That's what it's morphed into. So anyway, if you're interested in that, go to podcastvseveryone.com. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter, upgrade, and that's our plug. So check it out.
Yeah, and the only person we've ever had dropped the upgraded membership, came back. So people like it.
It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had fun. I had fun going back through some of the comments. I was obviously at a music festival this weekend when we were young. I had basically no cell phone service, 70,000 people. It was sponsored by Verizon. I have AT&T. I think that may have been part of it because my sister could actually look up the score and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were just looking up the score, which was fun. Seeing when they extended the lead and just held. But I did get a chance to watch it after. But it was fun to go back and read some of the comments in the game thread, how it didn't start out so great. Obviously, Cougs turned over on downs on their first possession. Hawaii goes and takes a 3-0 lead. Hawaii kind of moves the ball pretty well on first few possessions. But then they start turning it over, and then WSU starts scoring touchdowns. And it went from this is scary to, okay, we're fine in 2 minutes. It was really quick. It was really, because actually while Steph and I were, my sister, were checking the score, we saw 7-3, and then we saw a few songs from her band, and then we check it again, and it was 21-3, and we're like, oh, yeah, okay, that's better. Yeah.
That was probably a pleasant surprise. I was off, so I watched the first half at home, and then had to leave at halftime to go press some cider, make some cider out of some apples at a big party. And the place where we were at was out toward Eatonville, which is kind of out there. Not a lot of cell service. So I just didn't even bother with my phone left in the car, but Sarah had enough cell service. She was able to show me the score in the second half. And that's where I went, I don't know, it's probably about 40-10, and she pulled it open. It was 42-10. And I was like, yeah, it was, I don't know, man. It was really nice. I watched the rest of the game the next morning. So I watched, the second half on delay, like you did. And it was kind of refreshing and nice to have a game that was just, nobody's going to call it a complete game. There were definitely things to, nitpick and complain about, or, ask for improvement or whatever. And we'll get into some of that stuff, but it certainly was more or less stress free. There wasn't really any point where you felt like, the game was really being threatened, where the lead was, in jeopardy. Like none of that. You didn't feel like any of that was there. I mean, they didn't really cruise, but also it was pretty low stress. So, I mean, for an event that gives me ulcers all the time, it was nice to not have any ulcers, for sure.
When Hawaii actually cut it 21-10 at the start of the second half, WC scored right back, and at that point you're like, they're in control, and they obviously continue to take control. It was 42-10 with 10 minutes left in the game. Really they could have won by more if they wanted to.
Yes.
But they really just ran the ball, ran the clock out. They had a 6-minute drive to just end the game. And that's the idea.
With the backup quarterback and entirely backup players, pretty much.
He made a couple nice throws too.
He did. He did
a couple of first down throws, and he was a big part of running that clock out and just getting the heck out of there. Which you love to see. And Mateer was a sniper. It wasn't just the completion percentage. He was just on point. He was making difficult throws. He was way better in the screen game. We talked about that last week. Way better with the screens. Didn't miss a single one of the screen throws. They kind of put him where they
and
need to be.
And making good screen throws, right? I mean, there's a difference between a bad and a good screen throw. So,
but he just made some darts throws. That throw to first down to Hudson, where Hudson kind of came back and caught it. That was just that was a laser, and that touchdown to Mathers, the first touchdown to Mathers, that was just a laser, and he a dime to Williams down the sideline, just a lot of really tough throws that he made, and I mean 23-27, we would have taken 60% from Mateer with the way he uses his legs, and a guy's having 23-27 games, that feels really good. and feels like
Yeah.
maybe he's starting to turn a corner and with the passing game, because teams are not letting him run as much, and so he's having to throw the ball. And obviously we've played the best teams we're going to play, and if he can figure that out, like if he can be hitting, I'm not going to say 80% of his passes every game, but if he's hitting like 70%, like this offense is going to cook. Like it's going to cook, and then we saw the element that he brings with his running, with designed runs in the second half, scoring 2 touchdowns. Like it's just he's back to being that weapon that we wanted, and you're feeling good about him as a weapon again. And again, we've said this over time. It seems like he learns things and he applies things, and he's smart, and that's so encouraging, because the offense really was on point in this game. Hawaii couldn't stop it. They had that first drive where I think they probably went to the well too much on like those runs up the middle. Yeah. And kind of, Hawaii was looking for it because they knew we would want to be running the ball. But after that, they even came back from some like big holding penalties. Okay, one point of emphasis obviously is wide receiver blocking on
the wide
screens.
receiver screen holding. Yeah, that was
3 or 4,
good Lord.
Holding penalties on wide receivers. That was nuts. Like I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it was 4.
Four. I have it
at least
in my
4.
notes.
Yeah,
4.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That's 4 holding calls period in a game, but like to have them on the wide receivers.
Yep.
And in some situations they didn't necessarily need to do it. Some teams it did really impact it, but that just very encouraging game all around. The defense probably gave up a few more yards than you would want, but they did the bend don't break. That is, when they're good, that's what they do. They give up some yards, but they force teams into field goals, and they force them into many reps. So raising the number of opportunities to create turnovers. And then they're finally able to catch. They had such bad fumble luck throughout the year, and they got 2 of them this game. It typically evens out, and it evened out in this one, and they're both huge. Yep. And then a great interception. So it was that some really looked like they were more athletic than the offense, which is what you're hoping to see the rest of the season with a lot of these teams. Yep. And Hawaii was not a good offense, and they held them to 10 points. And Jeff, you picked 42-7. I picked 38-14. So I don't think either of us can complain about the 10 points. So to cover it, it was like a 14-point spread or something. Yeah. To cover it that easily, that's really nice. Yeah. All around it felt very good. Watching the game, the replay, I've seen the score, looking at the stats, and watching the game, I felt better after actually watching what happened, because they just looked, they looked like dominant in many ways. Maybe you would have hoped some of the early running back runs could have done better, and that would be one nitpick on the offense, is maybe the run blocking on those early running back handoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, on the one hand, I'd love to see them come out and blow them off the ball right off the gate, and you know what I mean, just like steamroll them down the field. But I mean, I don't know that we're capable of doing that to anyone. So it doesn't, like, I didn't feel like I was not all that upset or discouraged or anything by what happened on that first drive. My feeling was, I mean, it wasn't like every run was bad. There were a few that were, small gains, but they had a couple others that popped for 5 yards, 7 yards. Like they were doing some things. And then, early on, I mean, we always make a lot about the script, and we talk about, if a team has a bunch of success right off the top, oh my gosh, the script, and they were able to script that up, and, but, sometimes I think the flip side is true a little bit as well. Like, I don't have data in front of me to back this up, but anecdotally, it sure seemed like Mike Leach's teams often started pretty slow, or at least not very explosive. And so, but what was happening is,
I think what Leach, you're going to say it.
Yeah, I was going to say, the script is, let me figure out how the defense is going to respond to this or that. If I show them this formation, if we run this route combination, how are they going to defend it? What are they going to do? How are they going to set up? And then you figure out where the soft spot is. And that was what Leach was so good at as a play caller, right? Is he'd figure out where the soft spot was, where the defense, like, oh, that's where I can attack. And then he would like stab him and twist the knife, right? And so.
Which he amazingly did from the sideline, to be honest.
Yes. Amazing. And, I think there was a little bit of that here as well. I think that they were purposing to run. They were determined to run for all the reasons that, we talked about last week, and all the reasons everybody talked about, Jake Dickert talked about, right? Like, everybody talked about it. Well, they came out and they ran it, and some of it worked and some of it didn't. And then, there was, I think, a little bit of consternation there about how the drive ended, right? Because you got second and 3, or third and three, and you hand the ball off twice and don't get the first down, right? And to me, that was more a failure of personnel than anything else. Leo Pululasi had some good runs during the game, but he's also not really a power back. That's just kind of not his thing. If you've got 3 yards to get, or you've got 4th and 1, maybe put Schlenbaker in there. As we found out later, Wayshawn Parker was a little beat up, but
they seem to be using Pululasi as a power back, though. They've used him in a lot of short yardage.
Yeah, and I don't get it.
Interesting.
Maybe they see him as more of a power guy than Wayshawn, or maybe in the deal with, Schlenbaker's been hurt, right? So he came back this game. So maybe that was the deal. They didn't want to use him in a power situation at first with him being hurt. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Or maybe they just went, we're just going to run with whoever's back there and it'll be fine. Either way, if they had a power back there, they would have converted that 3rd and 3. Schlenbaker, I have very, very little doubt that Schlenbaker would have converted that one. So
he looked really solid. He looked really solid in the carries he had. Like, he looked shifty. He almost broke one on the, he was so. Then they just kneeled it down after that. He was so mad because he knew he wasn't getting another carry, but he barely shoestring touched. But he looked really good. I'm excited for him getting fully healthy and getting back at being that. If they can have Wayshawn, hopefully. But Wayshawn is a freshman running back, and this happens to freshmen sometimes. True freshmen, they get beat up. It's a lot more physical than high school football when you're the best guy on the field and everyone else is not playing like any college ball, and you're a D1 guy. It's a different story when everyone's a D1 guy and everyone's hitting you as hard as they can. But so hopefully he can be healthy. But if Schlenbaker can come back, and then they can use Pululasi and take some pressure off Parker, because he definitely seems like he's been a little bit less effective lately. Doesn't have quite as much quickness and burst. Not getting some of those big runs as often as he was early in the season. So hopefully maybe they can kind of give him sort of a working rest and get him back in. Because, obviously we want this running game to work. And but you got to have – we saw last year, you could try to run all you want, and if your running backs aren't up to it, it's not going to go well.
And Dickert even alluded to the fact that I think the phrase he used was that Wayshawn was lacking a little bit of juice, was the way he put it. He's like, you just saw it, the burst to get to the second level wasn't really there. And they did use him throughout the game. It was funny. I was like, after the game, I thought, I wonder how many carries he had. Maybe he didn't carry the ball at all in the second half. And then I looked, and he actually did have some in the second half. That I was like, I must have forgotten about those. It must have been pretty forgettable. But, I think that, with having Schlembaker back, that's a pretty big deal because, now you got the 3-headed thing again. And it does give Arbuckle some options, for running. One interesting thing that Mateer said after the game that, I kind of wondered about. So he referenced all their RPO calls. And he talked about how they, on their stat sheet that they use as a program, they combine whenever an RPO is called, they combine the RPO yards and they present the RPO yards. So he said we had 170 RPO yards. Now, RPO, for people listening, run pass option, right? So out of the 444 total yards, he said 170 came on run pass options. Now, I think when most of us, amateurs watch a game, if you're familiar with the run pass option, most of the time you kind of think of it as, an option to hand off and then kind of a rollout where there's an option to run by the quarterback or an option to throw by the quarterback at that point. So it's almost kind of like a triple option kind of deal.
The quarterback can, with just make that read before the play.
Right. So that's what I was going to say.
Quick throw, which we saw Mateer do. Yeah.
Yep. That's what I was going to say. So these were more like that, where he's looking at the box, he's looking at things, he's figuring out, okay, how's the defense lined up? And then he makes a call. So the ones so I've been, charting the offensive play calls, probably a lot of the ones that I charted up is like play action, right? Were actually RPOs where he was like, okay, I can either run it here or I can pull it and make a quick pass. And so there probably was plenty. Those are probably some that I categorize as a wide receiver screen that maybe are also, RPO type plays. So either way, the interesting part about it to me is simply that, we used to talk a lot about how Leach would empower his quarterbacks to make a call at the line. He'd basically send in a passing play and a running play. The default was the passing play. And then if the defense really gave you a really good look, then you could run it. Right. This seems to be sort of along those lines, like saying, hey, you got 2 play calls, you get us into the right one, and then you go. And it sure seemed like, given the amount of success they had, the consistent success they had. I wrote about that in the newsletter on Monday about the success rate that they had, which was way higher than what they've had lately, just really consistently moving the ball in chunks. You put all that together, man, I think the thing to me that's most encouraging about Mateer was, look, 23-27 is great. It's awesome. 10 yards, over 10 yards per pass. That's awesome as well. But just sort of the command, right? And they talked a lot about after the game about how they simplified it. But the command of the offense, to me, that's the thing where you go, okay, now we're really ready to level up, because when you've got that command and you're calling it at the line, that's when you can really start to do some damage.
Well, yeah, and one of the frustrating things watching Mateer against Fresno was his delayed decision making.
Yep.
Missing guys that could have been open, and it happened over and over and over again. So yeah, simplifying it for him, giving him a decision at the line. That's great. Cause he made a lot of really quick throws off those RPOs, and if that works, that's awesome. And hopefully, they can come back to that. My prediction before Fresno, they could average 40 points a game against the rest of the schedule. Well, they got 42 against Hawaii. I will say, San Diego's defense is not terrible, but not great either. But they have some successful areas for sure. Jeff, I don't know if any other thoughts on Hawaii before we move on to San Diego State.
I think it's worth talking about turnovers a little bit. You mentioned that, and a lot's been made of that. We have a pretty extreme positive turnover differential, even with some of the interceptions that Mateer threw earlier in the year, and
some of the poor fumble luck. Yeah,
that too. Anytime a team gets like with this kind of turnover differential, people want to know what the secret sauce is, right? Like what is WSU doing that they're getting all these turnovers? And, Greg Woods wrote a story about it, like and WSU, of course, is like, oh, we teach this. We absolutely teach this. It's like, well, everybody fucking teaches it, right? Like, I don't think there's any school in the country that doesn't teach, hey, go get the ball and run to the ball and try to be smart and jump routes when it presents. I mean, I guess that's all a really long way to say, I don't think that WSU has like any particularly special ability to take the ball. I do think that they are doing a lot of the things right that can lead to turnovers, and that part's awesome. So I'm not like downplaying it to the extent that I'm like, it's all luck, it's all fluke. It's not. I mean, they've put themselves in good position. We know that, Ethan O'Connor's interception. We know that was. That was a product of film study and a product of knowing where to be. Like, so I'm not trying to like take all that away. What I am trying to say is, that thinking that WSU has some sort of magic secret sauce maybe is a little, that's like a little foolhardy, and could, in fact, I would even say like, look, we're San Diego State. I know we're going to transition to that in a sec, but they've only turned the ball over 4 times in 6 games. So they just don't turn the ball over. They don't throw it very much. When they run the ball, they run the ball a ton. And when they do, they don't fumble. Like, there's a pretty good likelihood WSU has 0 turnovers this weekend. And it won't be because they didn't know what to do or they didn't have the right technique or whatever. It'll just be because San Diego State just isn't going to turn it over. Yeah. And that's kind of what you have to keep in mind with turnovers is, when you play a team that's turnover prone, like Fresno State, like we said before that game, on this podcast, the guy throws interceptions. He's going to throw the ball to us at some point if we're going to catch it, right? And then Hawaii, same deal. Like early in the game, you could see, Shager keeps throwing the ball across his body. He keeps doing that. He's going to throw one to somebody. Buddha Alukta, step on up, right? Like, and then the first fumble was a little bit fluky, right? The guy's kind of backing in and then takes a weird hit.
Right into it.
But the last one, you blitzed and you got a quarterback pressure. And that was pressure. It's great, right? Like, so you can make these things happen, but at the same time, you're playing a team this weekend where the quarterback doesn't turn the ball over, and they don't throw it very much, and so just like kind of keep that in mind. I guess maybe now's a good time to transition to that, but like people should remember that if we're not getting turnovers, if we're not, if we're not getting the plus field position that we got in the last 2 games. That's by design. San Diego State is one of the best teams in the country at field position because they don't turn it over and they punt the ball. So, that's the deal. So anyway, San Diego State.
Yeah. Well, you said it, like the kind of what stands out to you with them is the field position game. Yep. And has that translated to offense? No, it has not. No. They averaged a shade under 22 points a game, very similar to Hawaii. Yep. It's funny, their average points per game, Hawaii coming into before WSU was 21 points for them, 20 points against. And now you have 21 points to 22 again, 23 against. Yeah. And then San Diego State obviously had a lot of trouble against Cal. Which would have been the toughest game on their schedule so far. And Oregon State, they had a lot of trouble against Oregon State moving the ball. They have had their best 2 offensive games the last 2 weeks. Wyoming, it was like all the fourth quarter.
Yes.
And then they put 27 on Hawaii at home. Obviously we saw that Hawaii, that wasn't right. That's nothing special. No. I have a friend that is in San Diego, and I texted him like, "Hey, I'm coming down this weekend," and he's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna come down and watch you Cougs get their asses beat." And I'm like, and so I was just like, I sent him I sent him the 2 screenshots of the Hawaii scores. And I was I was like, I guess, and he's like. He's like, dude, I don't really know anything about college football. I'm like, I figured knowing you.
He's I was actually just like saying stuff that I think you're supposed to say when your friend comes to town to watch a team.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, like it's really interesting looking at, like their home game against Oregon State.
Yeah.
21-0. Now they haven't given up many points.
Yep.
I think that's where the field position game comes into play. That they put their defense is not put into bad positions very often. They're 28th in average field position defensively. Ninth. They're 28th offensively. They're 9th defensively. So their opponents are starting on average at the 25.
Yep.
And and they're starting on the 30 on average. So yeah, they're winning that punt battle. And obviously in their games there's been a lot of punts. So that's something to watch. WSU hasn't been particularly good. They've been good at field position for their offense, not for their defense, because some of those turnovers. And because sometimes, it took Dean a while to get used to that the punting scenario. But obviously WSU, I think some of the field position, they have a pretty good kick returner, and that helps. But if you look at San Diego State, when they have the ball, they are not a good offense.
No.
They are 127th in EPA per rush, 133rd in rushing success rate.
Which, by the way, is amazing for a team that runs it
a lot.
like more than 50% of the time.
Yeah. They run it so much, and they are not good at it.
And they're terrible at it.
They have runs plus sacks 214 times, and they have 170 pass attempts.
Yep.
Like, that's crazy in today. They've allowed 13 sacks, which is not too bad at this point in the season. And they've dropped backs 183, runs 201.
I will say about the sacks, by the way, 13 sacks doesn't sound terrible, except when you consider, okay, number one, they've only played 6 games. So that's 2
how many
plus
times
per
have they
game.
thrown the ball?
And then, that's the other thing, right? Like, their drop back frequency is not high, right? They're throwing the ball like 20 times a game. So they're dropping back like 20 times a game, 25 times a game. And they're giving up two sacks a game on those 20-ish. So,
183.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do 13 divided by 183, Jeff. Yeah, they're giving up a sack on 7% of dropbacks. That's awful.
Yeah.
I retract
really
that previous statement. That's really bad. That's really bad. Like,
really. That's like Paul Wolf type stuff.
Will WSU take advantage of that? No. No. I don't anticipate that. But,
I don't know. I mean, we did against Hawaii. We got some good pressure at Fresno. I think we've shown the ability to get after the quarterback a bit against teams that do give up opportunities for sacks.
I do think they're going to go all out on stopping San Diego State's run game and putting them
that's true.
in third and 10s
for sure
by stuffing the runs. It's crazy. Yeah, that they are 112th in success rate on dropbacks, and they're so we say dropbacks instead of just passes. That's what collegefootballinsiders.com uses. I like that a lot. Because it's basically typical college football stats. A sack counts as rushing yardage, negative rushing yardage. But this is saying, no, the sacks we're recording as a pass, and that's counting towards your success rate and your EPA. 116th in EPA per dropback. It doesn't matter what they do; they suck at on offense. This should be a game again where WSU can have, they've given up 17 and 10 the last 2 weeks. It would be frustrating if they do more than that. They give up more than that in this game.
Yeah.
It should not happen against this offense.
It's going to be a low-scoring game anyway. not just because their defense is, marginally better than what we saw from Hawaii. Like San Diego State's they're just gonna shorten the game. It's just gonna this game is gonna be annoying to watch. I guarantee it. Our fans are gonna be super irritated. They're gonna be like, it feels like we should be blowing them out, and we're only up by 10 points or something like that. I mean, it's going to feel like that because San Diego State is going to run the ball. They're going to hold on to it. They're going to run time off the clock. They might get a first down or two, and then they put it back to you, and you get the ball back at your own 15-yard line.
They're running at least 2 minutes off. They run at least 2 minutes off whenever they have the ball.
Yeah.
And often not much more than that because they have one of the worst third/fourth down success rates, conversion rates, and again, this collegefootballinsiders.com combines them. So they're at 33%. So it's because they're terrible in early downs. They're always putting themselves in bad positions. They're not a good passing team. They don't want to pass, but they're forcing themselves to pass because they're not good at running, but they're still going to run the fucking ball. Like they're kind of baffling. Like it's just crazy to be that bad at running and you just keep doing it.
And continue.
But I guess if you're that bad at, I got to think like some of like some of that poor like passing success is because when they're throwing the ball, it's in 3rd and 9 so often. Like to get a successful to be recorded as a successful play on 3rd and 9, you have to get 9 yards. Like and that's but if you're on first down and you throw the ball and you get 5 yards, that's a successful play.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be part of their success rate, but yeah, they're just not good offensively. Like against teams closer to WSU's caliber, they have struggled to score. I'm talking Cal and Oregon State. They have 10 points against Cal, and I don't even know how those 10 points came about. Couldn't tell you. Could have been a defensive touchdown. I don't know. But it's I would look more at those scores than there's what they did against Hawaii, what they did against Wyoming.
Yep. Those are teams that are rated below WSU in whatever your metric of choice is, whatever your model of choice is. Both of those teams are rated at or below WSU. I guess Cal, I think in some is probably right around WSU, even though their record's a bit worse.
Cal's probably better defense. Cal's kind of flipped Cal's better defense. We have better offense.
Yeah, but still, it's both those teams were 3 touchdowns better, and so that honestly is about what your expectation should be. I would think for this weekend too.
I will say what we've seen, while the offense has struggled a bit away from Martin, the defense has not. They've except for at Boise, fine. But
Superman will do that to you.
Yeah, the Ashton JT ain't coming through that fucking door for San Diego State.
No.
Obviously we looked against Fresno State. They didn't have any outstanding running backs, and they still kind of were able to run. So you still worry about that a bit. But this is a way worse running team than Fresno State is. They do have a guy that they give the ball to a lot, Marquez Cooper. 151 carries for 670 yards. 151 carries already this year.
Yeah.
In 6 games. That's a lot in college football. That's 30 divided by 6. That's 25 carries a game.
Yeah, 25 carries a game.
Yeah, that's
111 yards a game, 112 yards a game. 4.4 yards per carry.
4.4 in college is not that good.
No, that does not help. That does not help the offense very much.
Yeah. They're grinding him. Like he's getting the ball over and over and over and over again. Because really, the next running back, only has 13 carries.
Yep.
It's going to be a whole lot of Marcus Cooper. And if you shut down Marcus Cooper, you're good. Like that's who's getting the ball. Like and then their quarterback, he's only throwing the ball to the other team once, and that's the big thing. They had a freshman quarterback throwing the ball 2 picks, but their starting quarterback, and I don't know. I mean, I assume he's healthy. If he's not, I don't know. That can make a difference.
As far as I know.
Because he got hurt against Oregon State, and then he missed a couple games.
Yeah.
So
but he's back.
So he's better.
Danny O'Neill's your quarterback.
He's better, but 7.5 yards attempt, that's fine. But for a quarterback that doesn't throw very much and is playing off the run, you would typically expect that to be north of 8.
Yep.
The kind of the Russell Wilson thing with the Seahawks. He always had a big yards per attempt because he was just throwing bombs. And but yeah, obviously him being back, they've played better, but they've also played worse teams.
Yep.
So that's something to watch. He's a little bit better. He's also a freshman, so we'll see. But yeah, so maybe we could expect a little bit more capability from him versus how they've been doing. So that's something to watch. But still, they're so focused on running the ball, and they're not doing it well. You slow down that run, just make them convert long third downs and long fourth downs, and you'll be good. And I feel good about that. I feel good about them giving up 2 touchdowns or less in this game. But so let's move to the other side. We've talked that to death. Defense is definitely San Diego State's strength.
Mm-hmm.
Their success rate is good. They're good against the pass. In terms of success rate, in terms of explosiveness, they do give up big plays, but they don't give up that many successful passing plays, but they get burned by big plays more often than most teams. So I don't know how to explain that. It's just that they're basically forcing teams into incompletions a lot, and then they're giving up a big play on the other end. That's exemplified early down EPA. They're 8th nationally, so they are hell bent on that first and second down, like getting you into a tough position. But then when they are 93rd in third and fourth down success rate, 41%. So they're getting teams into these tough third and fourth downs and just letting them convert. That's pretty interesting. Honestly, and there is definitely in this game, there should be more emphasis again on running. They do not defend the run well. 100 and let's see. I'm just looking around my laptop to my big screen over here. 193rd in rushing success rate, and 116th in EPA rush. So WSU is kind of average in rushing success rate. They can look a lot better in this game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be worth trying to establish the run or whatever, just because that's probably going to be, easy money at times. Just, you pick up 4, 5, 6 yards pretty consistently against this defense and potentially break some big ones. So I would expect WSU to run the ball a lot again, to running back handoffs like they did last week against Hawaii. I would expect there to be some big runs, and I would also expect Kyle Williams and then Chris Hudson and Carlos Hernandez to get free at some point on some big passing plays. San Diego State's gambling to create incompletions. They're gonna they're gonna give up some big plays in the process of that.
Yeah, and to be honest, they haven't faced a team like us. I don't know like a more
It's
delicate
definitely the
way to
best
say that.
offense they faced. Definitely best
Yeah.
offense they played all year.
So when I'm looking at, their yards per play allowed, Oregon State was at 5.4, not great, but also, Oregon State's a little different. I mean, I think they're worse than us, but also like just a different style of offense, right? Like they don't have the kind of quarterback play we do. California, same deal. They've got, obviously a tremendous running back, but, they don't get the same kind of quarterback play that we do. They were at 6.7 yards per play, which is good. So, there was that. And then, at Central Michigan, 5.1 yards per play. I mean, whatever. Hawaii, 4.88 at home. Again, whatever. We just watched that Hawaii offense. It's not a good offense. And then at Wyoming, again, 5.3. Like, again, Wyoming does not have the firepower that we've got, the tools, the weapons that we've got on offense. So, I will say, I think it's going to be irritating. I think it's going to be annoying. I think that, there's going to be times where we get field goals and we don't get touchdowns, and it's like, God damn it. Like, it's going to feel like super irritating. But at the same time, like, I don't know, man. I don't see any way they can keep up. I really don't. I don't think we're going to, drop 40 or 50 on them. But at the same time, like with the way their offense is, if you're pushing 30, or if you get to 30, because they've only given up 30 one time this year. If you're pushing 30, they do not have, they just don't have the ability to really keep up with their offense.
Well, that's if you're looking at it throughout the game, like you're probably only like 12 possessions versus maybe like 15 in a normal game or so.
Yep.
So if you're up there,
I wouldn't be shocked if it was less than that even. I wouldn't be shocked if it was something like 10.
If you're around like 3 points a possession, and WSU is one of the better teams in the country at points per possession, then you're good. Like you're going to put up 30. But yeah, it's not going to look as cool as like 50 because it's not going to be, you're not going to have the ball 16, 17 times.
Nope.
Where you score touchdowns on half of those and you're at 50.
Yep.
Like if you score touchdowns on half of your possessions in this game, you're going to be in the 30s. So, that's always something to keep in mind. And I don't see any, like, San Diego State knows they are facing a better team, and so they're not going to change what they do. They're going to still try to control the clock, limit possessions, and then hope something weird happens. And that's like what you said. That's what's going to make it frustrating. So if we do have a bad turnover, that could be a big deal. I remember when we talked about the Air Force game at the Cheez-It Bowl a few years back.
Yep.
The way Air Force limits possessions. Now, Air Force had a really good offense. So it was like we said, if you don't score once, like it could be over for you because you're only going to get the ball 8 times. But this, it's more like if you give them points, that's where you're going to be in trouble because you're not going to have just the number of possessions that will inevitably allow you to separate. So they're going to stay close just by mere, like, you're just not having enough possessions to separate. So I think like something that'll be big is scoring early. Like scoring on those first couple drives, getting at 10, 14 points on those first couple drives, forcing San Diego State to like have a little bit of a moment to be like, are we still just going to keep running the ball? And then I really I want to see the defense shut them down. Like they're terrible offensively. Their quarterback that they have back is definitely their better quarterback, but their running game has been terrible, and they've still just kept using it. I don't like. It's going to be really frustrating if WSU struggles defensively in this game. Like, but I just don't see it happening. I mean, I do see it happening. I wouldn't, but there's not something that San Diego State has done that leads me to believe that they can put up a bunch of points on Wazoo's defense. And while the defense is not great, but they're kind of average, and that's all you need to slow down an offense like San Diego State's.
I mean, San Diego State put up 3.7 yards per play against Oregon, and
Oregon
4.3 and 4.3 against California. Now, as we mentioned, right, the quarterback got hurt, didn't play against Cal, but at the same time, it's just like, I mean, I don't know how much of a difference that makes when you're going to run the ball 55% of the time anyway.
Yeah,
so
I would, hopefully, five a play and under in this game, and then shutting them down on third downs.
Yeah.
Holding their running back to, 2 or 3 yards, in the first couple downs to. Now, does our defense do that? I don't know. They don't get a lot of negative running plays, but as long as they can stuff them for like 1 or 2, that's helpful.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, with all that said, I did the prediction first last week. Why don't you get into your score first this week?
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's going to be annoying. I think that we are going to be getting field goals when we wish we had touchdowns, all this stuff. But I really do think that we are going to score on a number of drives. So, and I really don't think that they're going to be able to do much at all. So I'm going to go with 31-6 Cougs. Ooh. I think it's a blowout, but I also think that it's like annoyingly uncomfortable for the entire game.
Yes, I will be there at the game.
Yes, you will.
Flying out really late tomorrow night.
Woo!
Wife is on call till late, so we had to, just in case, I had to take the latest flight out. But we'll be there. We'll be there for Friday. I'll be at the Cougar Bar Crawl, except when I leave to go watch Hawthorne Heights for a couple hours.
For the second time in a week.
Yeah, for the second time in a week. But I wasn't able to see the full set because you had to bounce between sets.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
But so now I get to see a headliner set, which is always better in a small venue and all that.
Of course.
Although the thousands upon thousands of themos singing "Ohio's for Lovers" was a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I'm glad that I went over and saw it, even though I would have seen them on Friday as well. But so say hi to me if you are on the Cougar Bar Call on Friday. I should be around. I know there's gonna be some of our podcast subscribers that'll be there. They've said, but say hi to me. I look like this. If if you're listening on the on listen to just the recorded podcast, you can go to YouTube. You can see what my face looks like, and you can come find me.
And he's tall.
But I'll be at the game. I'll be at the big game as well. Obviously, I'm not going to fly down there just for the bar crawl, although
yes,
Cougs always win the party. But yeah, so I'll be around. Say hi to me, and then you don't have to ask me what I think the score will be because I'm going to tell you right now. I always worry about road games a little more. I worry about San Diego State really seeing this as like the biggest game left on their, although they play Boise State, so it's not the biggest game left on their schedule. They have a probably ranked team, probably potential college football playoff team left. But I do think they're going to take it very seriously. There's going to be some wonkiness. WSU hasn't played particularly well away from Martin this year, so I'm just like, show me when you do it. So I'm gonna like, I still WSU to win. I'm gonna go 27-10. Okay. Little frustrating, but get it done. So not quite as a blowout as you, but still covering. I think it was around 14, maybe. I don't know. It might have been betted up.
No, that's about where it's at. That's about where it's at. Okay.
Yeah. But we both got the Cougs to win. I'm just pleased. I want to have a good time and 7:30 at night and just be watching the Cougs trounce someone in a one of my favorite cities. Love visiting San Diego. So Jeff, I'll be having many beers to celebrate that one.
Yeah.
But some good beers in San Diego. But I want to know what you're drinking right now.
Yeah. Well, what I'm drinking right now,
because I wasn't paying attention earlier.
Yeah, folks on the YouTube, I'll hold the can up here. This is the Out West Fresh Coast IPA from SIG.
Oh,
yeah, this is so when I think of a fresh hop IPA, like when I think of like the prototypical archetype fresh hop IPA, the kind of beer that made me fall in love with fresh hop beers, it's this beer. Like it is just like it's a West Coast style. It's got that just sort of like that dank floral, just like kind of earthy, flavor to it. This is like, yeah, like I'm so glad I bought this. I've had a couple other ones, had a hazy, had whatever. Haven't really, I've not gone to Rainier Growlers, so I didn't get any fresh hop like Pilsners or lagers or anything where, they're doing a little different. It's, it's when I go to like Tacoma Boys and I'm seeing IPAs, right? But this one, like I said, this is the like when I'm like, hey, here's what a fresh hop should taste like. That's this beer. It's fantastic. Glad I got one. Yeah, totally delicious. We love SIG.
Yeah, when I had my wife and I had our little fresh hop ale festival in our living room, it was that one and the Russian River Balebreaker collab that I had a couple weeks ago on the show.
Yeah.
That really stood out to me. I of course, if you listen to us all the time, I love the West Coast IPAs over the hazies. So, but that one was really well done. Another one of their fresh hops, not that one, but another one won Best in Show at the Yakima Fresh Hop Ale Festival, which is kind of like, if you win it at that, like that's a big fucking deal. Like every brewery's bringing their best
everybody's there.
Yeah, like that's if you've never went to that festival, I highly recommend.
God, we got to do that again.
It is a blast.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it definitely was. If for long-time listeners, you'll know we recorded at the festival at Single Hill Brewing.
At Single Hill.
Had a lot of fun. If you go back and find that episode, it's pretty chaotic.
A little.
Out. Just had interviewed about 18 random people and whatever.
Yeah,
yeah,
as one does.
But yeah, so Jeff, the big lesson I've taught you over the years, especially with IPAs, is don't buy an IPA without flipping it over and looking what the fucking date is on the bottom.
Absolutely. Yep.
And me, it was like a week and a half ago, probably. I went to a certain beer store that I live close to, and they've lost a few employees, and they haven't turned over their cooler as much. I should have known. So Centennial is one of the earliest hops, probably the earliest hop to be harvested. So a lot of the first fresh hop beers you see are Centennial fresh hop beers. Now, if I would have looked more closely, this Electric Fields Centennial by Threshold Brewing in Portland.
Yeah.
At the bottom, it was canned on 8/28. 8/28. That is, look, normal IPA, whatever, 6 weeks, fine. 7
no big
weeks,
deal.
I don't care. I'm not as strict as I used to be with that.
Yeah.
Fresh hop, you're losing
Fresh
a lot.
hop.
And this tastes like, I bet it was really fucking good at the start.
Yeah.
But it has lost some of the fresh hopness, some of the kind of like that vibrancy that you get.
Yeah.
It's still a solid beer. And I haven't had many from this brewery, so I'm impressed that it's still solid 2 months later. I am bummed that I didn't look it up, but I am kind of glad that I and I'm showing it because I love doing weird stuff where I get to talk and be beer nerdy.
Yeah.
And I'll say when you're buying IPAs, check the bottom of the can.
Always.
And honestly, like 6 weeks and fewer. It depends on it is typically the way to go. And if you're gonna buy one that's 6 weeks old, like I did, don't wait 2 weeks to drink it.
Especially, by the way, if I would guess a pretty good majority of our listeners they don't go to specialty beer stores to buy their beers. Like they're going to Safeway, they're going to Fred Meyer.
Or especially if you go to Total Wine.
Right. That's a big one, right?
Because they don't refrigerate. They don't refrigerate their beers.
They don't refrigerate, and they try to carry 5,000 beers, right? So they are not rotating stock. They are not checking how long stuff's been sitting on the shelf. I mean, like you can go there and like grab something and it's like got dust on it, right? Like you're like, wait a minute, what is this? This layer of dust. Like just do yourself a favor. I swear, you will thank us. Check that date.
We've talked about the Bodie and Johnny Utah tip at Costco.
Yes.
They have the dates right on the box.
Yes, on the box.
If you just look below, usually they're pretty fresh because they turn those out. But sometimes they hang there for a while. Yep. And Bodie can fall off pretty quick.
Yeah. Bodie
it can go from the greatest beer of all time to this is gross, in a month. And so you just look at those dates, especially at Costco where they're not refrigerating it. Now, you refrigerate an IPA, it's going to last way longer. And that's probably what saved this IPA is because Beer Star keeps all their to-go beer is refrigerated constantly. There's a refrigerated storage in the back behind the cooler, and then the beer just goes into the cooler. So it's been constantly refrigerated. That probably is why it still tastes good.
Yeah.
But if I would have got this beer at Total Wine or at Costco or whatever, most grocery stores refrigerate most of their beer. But if you go to a place where they don't, those IPAs are going to fall off really quick. So just check that date.
Yep.
Get the freshest one. If you got to move some Bodie boxes around or Johnny Utah boxes around to get that fresh, it's worth it, man. Yeah, it's worth it, especially since they don't refrigerate.
I have definitely pulled a box flat from the second to the bottom, wiggled it out to get a box of Bodie or Lucille out at Costco for sure. So, but yeah, for real, we're not joking. I mean, we're laughing, but we're not joking, man.
It makes it a lot better.
If you're, it really does.
And the brewers
if you're getting
would appreciate it.
Yeah, if you're getting an IPA, make sure it's within 6 weeks or so. Lagers, not so much. Doesn't really matter. Pilsners doesn't matter as much, but
unless it's West Coast, West Coast
yes.
Pilsner, West Coast Lager,
for sure,
the big hoppy ones. It's hops, hops are really the big thing early on. Now, a lager that's 6 months old is not going to be super good, but a lager that's a couple months old is still fine. And they're not going to depreciate because they're not relying on the hops for so much of the aroma and flavor. Right. It's more of a balancing act. Now, these IPAs are so aggressively using the hop as the aroma and the flavor, and that stuff can fall off so quick. So yeah, we have talked way too long about this, but seriously, it's you will enjoy the beer so much more.
You will
if you actually find
you will
and
I can't even tell you how many people, I'm sure it's happened to you, a ton of times where people are like, yeah, I'm not really a big fan of IPAs, or I'm not really a big fan of this beer or beer style or whatever. And it's you're going to the grocery store and you're grabbing the shittiest thing off the shelf, because it's not fresh. It's not, I don't know. Anyway, it's especially with the local breweries where you can get stuff super fresh. I swear to God, man, a fresh Bodie compared to a 3-month-old Bodie, if you've had a Bodie at, I don't know, T-Mobile Park or at Lumen Field because you're oh, give me one of those. Guarantee you that thing's at least 3 months old. Do yourself look at that date on the bottom, man. Look at that date on the bottom.
Yeah, especially if you're in those grab and goes and you actually do that. But yeah. If you're just getting one from the guy real quick from the guys, the vendors, you just got to roll with it at that point.
Yeah, you're probably not.
But I will say Bodie's.
I'm like imagining somebody like
you're like,
he's
getting
already
like
the
open.
Guy.
Sir,
and
can
like,
I look at
wait,
that?
Wait. Don't open that. Don't open that yet. Let me check the date on the bottom.
Excuse me, sir. Can I please look at the bottom of that can before you open it? I'm doing you a favor. I swear to God, I was like that like 6 years ago, Jeff.
Maybe a little.
I could have seen myself doing that. Like,
wait! Don't open that. Don't open that yet.
Don't open that can.
I gotta check the date.
I will say Bodie is usually a better bet than like some of the other IPAs.
Yeah,
I went to a Mariners
sure.
game. I think it was a Mariners game, and they had like RPM, and I'm like, sweet, I haven't
Yeah.
had RPM in a long time.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think it was a Green Day concert or something. It was at T-Mobile. But I was like, sweet RPM. I started drinking. I'm like, this doesn't taste like Boneyard RPM. And I look at it was 6 months old.
Oh my God.
Like it was from the start of baseball season, basically.
Oh.
And they had not sold it. And then I got a Bodie, and it was like less than a month old. And so Bodie's usually a good bet because people consume Bodie in quantity.
Yeah.
And
it's brewed locally
still worth
too. I mean,
checking
that
out.
helps
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Yeah. All right. Beer.
All right.
Fresh beer.
Yeah, beer.
We love it.
Go
We
beer.
love our fresh beer. And keep your IPAs refrigerated. Yes, of course.
That too.
But yeah. So we know more about our football schedule next year. Now, last
very
week
exciting.
they added Louisiana Tech for late in the season. Those poor Louisiana kids gonna have to fly out in the middle of November to Pullman.
That'll
with
be
no
fun.
promise, no return trip. That's just, you're coming. Of course, we're flying down to Ole Miss in early October. So, it's just like the tiers of things here.
Yep. That's how these
but
work.
I'm super stoked about Ole Miss. I'm definitely gonna go to that. Just to go to the Grove and
Yep.
And don't have high hopes of WSU winning that game, but God, if they do, like what?
Yeah. Oh yeah. If they do.
Yeah, they call it in European soccer a famous win. Like when we beat
That's right.
When we beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin, that was a famous win.
That was a famous win for sure.
But yeah, so that, and now we kind of joked about this when the Pac-12 broke up, when all those fuckers defected. We kind of joked like, oh, WSU and Oregon State should just play each other over and over again. Like, just who cares? Well,
here we go.
WSU and Oregon State are playing twice next year, both in November.
Yeah.
November 1st and November 29th.
It would have been nice if they would have been spread out a little bit. It would have felt better about that.
Look, it doesn't bother me. I can't even imagine the pain that has gone into putting this schedule together.
Yes.
Because they basically eliminated most of the Mountain West. And then by the time they're putting the schedule together, most teams like only have one spot or are completely full. It's like 10 teams or something that have a spot like left for next seson.
And money goes into it too. Like you're like this is a negotiation, right? You're not just like calling up teams being like, "Hey, you want to come play a game?" Like it's they know where you're at. They want, a pretty significant payday to come to your place. It's even if they are, like a lower team or a lesser team or however you want to think of it, it costs money. It costs a pretty fair amount of money. And so trying to work all that out and keep yourself in a reasonable financial position, all of those things, it's really tough. And, the Oregon State thing, my first thought was, this sucks. This is shitty.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I don't know, man. I mean, it's just like at this point, we're just like, man, let's just get through this next year. Like let's just fucking get through the next year. There's something better on the other side, just whatever to get through this year, because It just is what it is, and it's still going to cost us less money than whatever the Mountain West was going to try to extort out of us, and it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Who cares?
Yeah, my first blush was like, oh, seriously, like just like you, and I was annoyed. I'm mostly annoyed just because we're all sensitive to this. Like, we're gonna play at Corvallis twice in 2 years.
Yep.
And they're only coming to WSU once.
Yep.
So I hope there's some, like, they'll play at WSU in 2026 to even it out or something. Like, I don't know, like, to restart the schedule, because that's the frustrating part, because it was like that with the Apple Cup. We're going to Ole Miss. They're not coming back to us. Like, we've done that many times. Went to Auburn twice. They didn't come back to us. Went to Notre Dame, and then their return game was playing us in San Antonio. Oklahoma State played us in Seattle. We should have brought them to Pullman. Not that it mattered. It was Wolf. I don't think it would have mattered. But yeah, it's just it's. And then I thought about it. I'm like, I can imagine, like, most teams have to schedule 3 to 4 games in a year. That's it. The rest is your conference. Your conference does the work of the rest of it.
It's already built in.
WSU
Money's
had one guaranteed game. They had one guaranteed game, and that was Oregon State, and that was it. And Oregon State only had one guaranteed game, and it was WSU, and that was it. So they have had to plan. They're basically like independents, having to plan 11 other games.
Yep.
And all the like Notre Dame has a bunch that they just play every year. So, like,
they have a
it's not like
scheduling agreement with the ACC.
Yeah, like they even they like got sick of doing it, and we're just like, yeah, like, we'll play a bunch of ACC teams. We don't care. We're so sick of this, and so, like, WSU just and Oregon State just, I'm sure they're just exhausted, and this is going to be more cost effective. It's saving headaches. It's saving phone calls. It's saving time.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, there's some fucking random radio host in Kansas City that said it was sad and embarrassing, and the Pac-12 should just go away. It's like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, what? One, you're in Kansas City. What the fuck do you care about the Pac-12?
What do you care about?
Like, what do you care at all?
Care?
Like, just go away, dude. Like what do you care? Like, and then, like, two, it's not. It was annoying, but is it sad? No, who cares? Like, just playing a fucking football team twice. Like, what was sad is that we had to do it in the first place. If that's what he's saying, I guess I agree with that. It's not embarrassing. I think it's just shrewd. It's clever. Like, let's. I think it's kind of be like, it's like highlighting what they did to us. Like, look, we got to play each other twice because you guys fucked us, and so, yeah, like, it's that was hilarious. He's gotten just ratioed to death, and it was like, I don't know who found that first. It's just like, who are you, dude? He has like 35,000 followers. He's got that paid for blue check mark, but he literally has in his bio that he's an influencer, which is so cringy. That's so cringy. Like, influencers, like, I one time early on when I was a journalist covering business tech, I had this guy he had a company, and if you're a journalist, like, if you have a small company, like, the small companies, like, come and talk to you because they want you to write about them.
Yep.
And he said, like, wow, it's just so nice to get some time with an influencer like yourself. And I'm like, shut up, dude. Like, please don't call me that. Like, I'm a journalist. I'm now a podcaster. Influencer is so cringy. Like, I just think of, like, the TikTok people dancing and shit. Like, it's just like, it's one thing to, like, just to call yourself that. That's how you end up with having terrible takes. Sorry, I just had to make fun of that guy. I don't even care what his name is. It doesn't matter. Most of you probably know what I'm talking about. So, like, it's ridiculous that we have to do this, but you know what? Like, it's gonna save some time. We're up to 10 games now. We have 2 more to fill. Oregon State's done. They have their schedule done. So they don't have to worry about it anymore. We have one less game to worry about. I think the next two will be home games. I think we have enough road games. So what? Although having it in November, we know like there's gonna be like the open spaces. They have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be 2 October home games for the first time in God knows when, and I am so excited about that.
That'll be thrilling
because for one, if there's one on that October 18th weekend, I'm probably gonna miss it going to when we were young.
when we were young.
But if you know, knowing that there's another October game, which is the ideal time to go to a Wazoo football game, is like
time.
early to mid October, and
Yep.
you know the leaves are changing. It's crisp, but it's not
beautiful.
cold yet.
Yep.
You know, like you do have the risk of rain, of course, but that's usually later October, more risk. Yeah, like October 1st to like 20th, and Pullman is just like it's like idyllic. Because I love wearing hoodies, you know. Like I you know, like I love wearing long sleeve stuff. I love hiding my beer belly. You know, I love all that. I like my WSU stuff that is like warm weather, like like cool to cold weather more than I like my WSU stuff that I have to like wear and show everything off in the hot sun. So I am very excited to have more than one October game. Who we will be playing, God, who knows? I guess you probably can narrow it down to like 9 or 10 teams.
Yeah,
but,
you can probably sort of figure it out. At this point.
You can figure out like there's not that many teams you'd be talking to unless someone changes it around, which can happen. It does happen. It happened pretty late last year. That's how we got Texas Tech on the schedule.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's just really, really fucking hard to like put a schedule together in a year. Like that is, I mean, most
you
of
have to have
like,
matching open dates. So you have to have matching open dates.
Yeah.
It's like Tinder, man. You both have to be swiping right at the same time.
At the same time. It's just like you look at these non-conference agreements contracts, right, that schools reach with each other. They are typically, so you are now moving on to your old Crimson. I've already moved on to mine. But it's like, you know, I mean, these things sometimes get scheduled out 6, 7, 8, 9 years in advance. Like, oh, I'm going to.
Well, that was on TV or whatever this is.
Sorry for the audio only folks on the podcast. Craig
I just spilled beer all over my desk. I'm glad my laptop is up higher for the video. I have no.
Craig did his fancy beer pour trick into his mug. I will say
this is way too warm to do that.
Yeah,
it got way too foamy.
Yeah, and I will say that it is a little fitting though that you did that with the drunken sailor Coug on your mug.
Yes.
You know, with the foam.
I'm so glad we won in
everywhere.
that, so we can wear it again. I'm glad we won in it.
This is what y'all get if you actually watch the podcast.
Salient point that you were talking about, Jeff.
Yeah, if you watch it on YouTube.
The greatest way. This is gonna be. We're definitely clipping this for the.
Man, I don't even remember what the fuck I'm talking about at this point. So whatever, man. We're good.
Football schedule. Yes,
stuff.
we will have football game to play.
Yeah.
The 2-game series.
8 years in advance. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, like all this stuff scheduled in advance, and so trying to get it scheduled 1 year out is like insane. And yeah, that's why the Mountain West was able to get $15 million out of us a year ago. Right? Is like. They knew that, so they went ahead and did it, and then they tried to up the ante, and of course that we all know how that played out. So, yeah. Sorry,
I'm yelling more today because my kids are not here because we dropped them off with the grandparents because we're flying to San Diego tomorrow.
Hell yeah!
So yeah, woo!
All right, volleyball and soccer, real quick.
Sit with this puddle of beer because we don't have much time left.
Good job.
So no reason to make you edit, Jeff.
I can't now. Like there's video here. Like I can't edit the video. Like this is it, man. This
no one ever edits video podcasts. They just let it all.
Well,
go.
I know, but like I'm not going to. I'm not a video editor.
I will say if you are listening just audio. it will be worth going to the YouTube video and going to about an hour and 16 minutes.
Yeah.
And watching the look on
Watching
my face
Craig
when that
pour
beer
his old
starts.
crimson.
Yeah, it is. That's
Yeah.
Don't do that with a warmer old crimson. It foams too much.
Yeah.
I like to I'll pour it in the glass and just let it sit there because it's like a 16-ounce glass. It can hold it all, even with some foam. But there was too much foam this time. But it's also better to pour hard because you get more of the carbonation out. It doesn't go in your belly. Anyways, so we talk about beer again. Anyways, soccer. How'd they do tonight? They were knotted at 1. They missed a PK. I don't know what happened after that.
Yep, finished at 1-1.
Damn.
Another missed opportunity that just kind of makes you go, they just sort of are what they are, right? Like
it's kind of been what they've been.
Yeah, I mean
the last couple
they're
years.
a pretty good team, not a really good team. Probably above average, which is fine, I guess, except for the standard of our program, that's not actually fine. So that's just kind of where we're at. And like 1-1, like in a vacuum, 1-1 on the road at Santa Clara. I think when I was watching the game, they had a 10 next to the Santa Clara name, so that would tell me that Santa Clara was ranked 10th, Craig. So drawing the 10th ranked team on the road in a vacuum, not a bad result, but I mean, you're sitting there in the middle of the WCC at some point.
Yep, they're ranked 10.
Win a game.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you got to win a game.
I mean, that's one
against
of
a good
those
team,
games.
so.
Like, if you get that game, maybe you could start dreaming. Now, I will say that came on the heels of losing 4-3 at Gonzaga, which is not a good result.
Nope.
Gonzaga hasn't been that great.
Nope.
Especially when
giving
you
up
finally
4
fucking
goals
score.
to Gonzaga is like,
finally, you
what the
score.
fuck?
You score more than 1 goal. You score 3, and you give up 4. That's so frustrating. So just 1 point from the week. Well, only 2 points from the last 3. I think WCC title hopes are all but dashed at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you're 5 points back with 3 games to go. I mean, that's...
And then I would say at-large hopes are
Yeah.
all but dashed at this point. So
I mean, you're 5-5
unfortunately,
and 6.
Yeah.
You haven't won a game on the road this year.
Yep. And they only have 3 left against. Yeah, you're just this is not gonna win that set.
Nope.
You won if you won those 2 this week.
Yeah.
You're in a good spot.
Yeah.
Or even if you beat Gonzaga and have that draw with Santa Clara.
Yep.
But honestly, they needed that win. They needed to beat Santa Clara.
I mean, you'd be sitting there at if you had done that, if you had beaten Gonzaga, you'd be sitting there at 12 points. You'd be in 5th place, but you would also only be 2 points back of first. Like you would be in an okay spot with those 3 points instead of the loss, but instead you got that loss and you're sitting there on 9 points with 3 games to go.
They gave up 4 goals total. Let's see, they gave up 5 goals total in the previous 4 matches. They gave up 4 to Gonzaga.
Yep. Yeah, not good. Gonzaga does score goals. Like if you look at their games, they do score goals, but they also, I don't know, man.
Give up goals.
I don't know. You got to be better. So not good enough. They're not going to make the tournament again unless something really, really, I don't know, weird. I mean, even if they won the last 3 games, I can't imagine they would. I don't think they could.
I don't think they could even. They can't win the league. I think they're too far back.
That would be. I mean, I suppose it's mathematically possible, but it's not really, plausible. So, yeah, bummer again.
Let's see. They are. Oh, it crashed. Website crashed. I can't open that website. It won't let me. I think I saw that WSU is at 9 points in the 1 second I saw the standings, and now it's
they're at 9. They're at 9 points. They're 5 points back. of Santa
Yeah.
Clara. You know, they had the opportunity there to, you know, again, if
So
they win
yes,
the game, they're
technically,
sitting on 12
mathematically-
points. I mean, if they had won that game, they're sitting on 12. Santa Clara is sitting on 11. Essentially,
They're sitting
they
on
are
11.
Yeah,
Yeah, we get
you
it.
know-
WSU be at 11 points if they win the game.
or 11 points. Sorry, yes, 11 points.
Yeah.
Santa Clara sitting on 11. You'd have a couple teams at 12. You'd be right there. You'd be like, yeah, this is great. It's not there. They're not. They're just, you know, soccer program's not what it was, man.
And they had a PK to win
know.
in the second half.
That is heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's move on to volleyball. That was a little depressing. Volleyball had a bit of a mixed bag of a week. They didn't have any five set matches. That was a different thing. But they beat Oregon State in the Pac-2 matchup. In 4 sets. Oregon State not great, so that was good. They took care of that. When they came back on Saturday, playing at San Diego, and lost in 4 matches.
Not so good.
I did not watch that one.
Not so good.
I did watch a lot of the Oregon State one. I did not watch that one at all because I was watching emo bands. I was probably watching
Yeah,
Chiodos.
I didn't watch it either.
Probably watching Chiodos fucking play their first set in 8 years, and
but-
it was the greatest goddamn thing I've ever seen
There
in
you
my life.
go. Still in a good spot though. You know, 11-6 overall, 6-2 in the conference. I have no clue where what that means for any NCAA tournament possibilities, other than we're a half game out of first place. So that's good.
Well, win the conference and you're in.
But at large, no clue. So
Win that conference and you're in. That's
yep. And we do have, you know, volleyball's a little different than soccer. We were talking about soccer's only got really 3 games left. Volleyball's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games left in the regular season.
they're up till
Lots of
November
time
29th.
still. Yep. Lots of time still to, you know, win some matches, win a bunch of matches, and, you know, potentially pile up some wins. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I wish I knew more about volleyball.
I mean,
don't, so I can't really offer
their record.
a whole lot of insight.
Their record might be a little bit misleading, but you can't take the wins because they've been so good in 5 sets.
Yes.
But you can't take the wins away once you have them. So once they're banked,
No.
they're there.
Yep.
So if they can
Yep.
just keep winning, you know, they can make the tournament. So yeah,
Yep.
And Katie Ryan is still amazing and destroying
Badass,
people.
I think is the phrase you're
Yeah.
looking for.
So yeah, volleyball. It's still in good position. Tough loss, but still in a good position in the league. Still a chance to win the league. I think they are in a better position than anyone anticipated coming into the season, even in the WCC. So they obviously lost almost everyone.
Yep.
And a new coach and everything. But yeah, it's been fun. You know, ESPN Plus, watching, you know, the matches and stuff, and it's been fun getting to do that. And I think like the quality of production has been like slightly better than those the Pac-12 in-house broadcasts. So it's been pretty fun, been enjoyable.
Yep.
But yeah, so
Yep.
yes, volleyball, soccer, still chugging along. So Jeff, we already plugged. We don't got to plug. I will say I started a TikTok account for Podcast versus Everyone. It's at Podcast versus Everyone. And I started an Instagram account for Podcast versus Everyone. It's at Podcast versus Everyone. That's a VS, not the spelled out word. Since we are doing these video things, we are posting clips now to those. And we're posting them on Twitter as well, at Pod versus Everyone and at the Craig Powers. But it's way better. You're way better served to watch those on Instagram and TikTok is kind of a better experience. But Be on lookout for that and go follow those accounts because I don't want to be posting them for no one. Although we got a ton the TikTok video, we got a ton of views on, even though we have like no followers on TikTok. And I think it's a thing where they just
The algorithm.
No, I
likes
think
it.
they just give you a lot of views on your first post, so
Yeah,
you keep
maybe
coming back.
Maybe
But anyway, so Jeff, with all that said, go fucking Cougs.
Go fucking Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter, and get vaccinated.
And support a union.
Support a union.